This week, I came across what might be one of the greatest understatements of the past 10 months. It's on the CDC website, where it reports, and I kid you not, pandemics can be stressful. Can be stressful. How about have been stressful? Maybe not for everyone in precisely the same way, but these 10 months have been intense, at times filled with apprehension and maybe even a little bit of fear. And I can't imagine anyone who hasn't felt some moment of stress, some concern, and some measure of anxiety, because the unknown, and this pandemic has been filled with unknown, pushes us off balance. And the inability to return to normal makes us uneasy, to say the least, which is probably all the worse, because for many of us, this is the very first widespread crisis we've experienced. It's the first time we've been caught so out of control. And while by no means is it the worst, even in modern history, think the world wars, the Depression, and so many other crises, it is the worst that many of us have known firsthand. What should we do? According to the CDC, there are several things, but according to the parasha, there are just two options. The first is found in the encounter of Yaakov Avinu and Paro Melech Mitzrayim. Said Pharaoh to Yaakov, Kama yemei shnei chayecha? How old are you? And Yaakov responded, I am 130 years old. Me'at v'ra'im hayu yemei shnei chayai. But my years have been few and hard, and I've lived not yet as long as my fathers. At which point, Vayivarech Yaakov et Paro. Yaakov bade farewell and left Paro in the room. But that encounter has stayed with us, because Paro asked a simple question. How old are you? And instead of just answering, Yaakov gave a whole commentary on the quality of his life. And then abruptly, the meeting ended. Wasn't there more for these two great leaders to discuss? Rav Chaim Shmulevitz Zatzal, in his Sichot Musar, offered a fantastic insight based on a midrash found in the Da'atzkenim Miba'alei HaTosafot. Wrote the midrash, B'sha'a shamar Yaakov Avinu ma'at v'ra'im hayu yemei shnei chayai. When Yaakov said to Pharaoh, my years have been few and miserable, God said to Yaakov, I saved you from Esav and Lavan. I returned Dinah to you, and now I have reunited you with Yosef. How can you say that your life has been ma'at v'ra'im, so very miserable? As a result, God shortened Yosef's life 1 year for every word of that exchange, 33 words in all. And so when Yaakov said to Pharaoh that he had not yet reached his father's age, he never would, because God deducted 33 years from Yaakov's life. And instead of reaching his father's age of 180, Yaakov lived only until 147. And that's the midrash. And yet, those 33 words include the 8 words of Pharaoh's question to Yaakov. Why should Yaakov be punished for that? Said Rav Shmulevitz, because Paro wasn't planning on asking Yaakov his age. That's just not done in normal society. But when he saw Yaakov, he saw a very old looking man. Sarot Rosho, Skeno, Helbino Mirov Zikna. And it was at that sight. It was the way Yaakov Avinu presented himself and the affect he projected that led Paro to ask the question, which Yaakov answered in such a depressive manner that the meeting ended, not because there was nothing more to say, but because people don't want to be around people whose affect brings them down. And that was Yaakov. But there's someone else in a parsha who experienced a very hard life. Yehuda. He lost his wife, buried two sons, falsely accused his daughter-in-law, and almost had her executed. He guaranteed his youngest brother's safety, who was about to be carted off to prison. And now he was forced to confront the second most powerful man in Egypt and demand his brother back. Yehuda had a very hard life. And yet in next week's parashah, when Yaakov summons his family to his deathbed to give him his blessings, beyond telling Yehuda that he would rule over his siblings, he told him, Chachlili einayim miyayin, your eyes are darker than wine, uleven shinayim mechalav, and your teeth are whiter than milk. Why did Yaakov Avinu talk about Yehuda's teeth? The Gemara in Ketubot and Daf Kuf Yud Aleph explains that it was because there was something special about Yehuda. His smile. He liked to flash his pearly white teeth whenever he would see others. Adds the Gemara that when a person shows the white of his teeth to another by smiling broadly, it's better than giving that person a cup of milk to drink. Why? Because as the Avot Rabbi Natan explains, even if a person is unable to give his friend anything, if he greets him pleasantly, it's as if he's given him all of the gifts in the world. In psychology, there's a concept known as social contagion. It's the idea that just as a virus can be contagious, so too can behaviors and attitudes. And so we know that if a person is in a room and he yawns, very often other people will yawn as well. And that's one example of a social contagion. Well, it turns out that happiness is also contagious. That when one person smiles or is happy, it leads to others' happiness and smiling. It's been proven. But even more, we know it intuitively. We know it from just watching a baby respond to our smiles or our sadness. For the past 10 months, we've lived in an exceptionally stressful time, and for good reason. People have been sick, and Rachmana litzlan, more than 1.7 million people have died in the world as a result of the coronavirus. And so it's understandable if we're stressed or even a little bit sad. And what our parasha teaches us, though, is that how we react to stress and how we react to that sadness, to troubles and to loss, impacts not only us, but others. If we wear our troubles on our sleeves, it won't solve a thing, but it will push others away. It'll contaminate the nature of our shuls and our communities and make us feel not better, but worse. But if we can see a way to see past the tsaros, if we can see the opportunities that have emerged, and they are many, from science that has successfully raced for a vaccine, to technology that has created new channels of communication, from the resilience of communities to the creativity of so many, if we see the opportunities despite the problems and project the figurative or real smile, we will move forward. We will be stronger, and we will go beyond this challenge that God has placed before us. So take care of yourself. Connect with others. Address your fears, but smile some more. Be more like Yehuda, and maybe a little less than the Yaakov who appeared before Paro. Because our years, our lives have been much more than just these past 10 months. And very soon, our lives will once again be much more. And we will be there to support one another. Shabbat Shalom.